Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Father Show today. And I'm your host, Mike Thompson. And today we have another great show. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. But before we get to that point, if you are a man and you have not subscribed to our show, and women, you can subscribe to, please, because I really want you to understand what we are going through, what we feel, how we process things. So if you have not subscribed to our show, I would ask that you would go to our YouTube channel, hit that subscription button, and while you're there, hit the notification bell so whenever we have a show, you'll be notified. Now, for the men, if you are looking for resources, and really, once again, ladies too, because we do know you have sons and you have husbands. So if you're looking for resources, please go to the Father Show with MikeThompson.com, click on resources, and there you can find national and statewide resources that can assist you whatever you may need. So, and if you can't find exactly what you're looking for, please give me a shout, and you can reach me out at thefathershow@gmail.com, and just let me know what you're looking for, and I will do my best to help you find it. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we got Dr. Stacy Friedman coming on the show, and we're going to be talking about sex. So if you got little kids hanging around, please have them to go away. This is not going to be a show for them today. This is going to be for us grown-ups, because we want to get a better feeling about sex and feeling about sex. So men, pay attention, because I hope we hit some subjects that will interest you and help you, and in matter of fact, educate you on sex. So Dr. Stacy Friedman is here today, and she's going to be telling us all about it. So I know this might be a long show, but ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Stacy Friedman to the show. Stacy, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm kind of excited about this.
I'm ready to talk sex.
And I'll watch some of your other stuff, but I know you love talking about sex, and it's great that you do, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and bringing your knowledge to us so we can be more educated about sex, all ages, because you're young and the old, people like me, we still don't know it all, but I'm open-minded, like to learn something new, so we'll see what we can find out today. But before we get to that, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you, why you got started in this, and what you do?
It's one of my most common questions is, what made you be a sexologist? So I am a clinical sexologist. I have a certification for sex coaching, and I have a doctorate in human sexuality. So I also have a background in psychology as well. So I'm able to work with not just kind of some mindsets, but also just all about sex and intimacy. I have a background as an ultrasound technologist. I did that for 26 years. So I also know about how the body works and disease processes. So that really helps a lot when working with people in regards to sex and intimacy. So I started, actually, once I had kids, I had my own personal intimate problems where I wasn't able to have sex due to pain that came about through childbirth. And it took me probably a good 6 years to find the right doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor to be able to help me learn how to keep my intimacy and my sexuality while I was dealing with painful sex. And I think that because there really weren't many people around, I was like, you know what? This is something I could totally see myself doing, is helping other people with their sexual concerns. I was very open. People used to joke around and call me Dr. Ruth when I was in high school. So I always had that background. And once I had my kids and I decided to go back to school, after I did ultrasound for 26 years, I said, you know what? It's time for me to try something different. I just really loved the idea about sex and intimacy, and started selling the adult romance toys and products, and then got into the program, and here I am.
Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that somebody got to do it. I mean, we all.
And why not me?
Right. And we all, and I know we're going to be generalizing a lot through this show.
Yeah.
And I really don't like doing that, but we all enjoy sex. And some more than others, some in different ways than others. But I think in general, we all like sex.
Now, just to touch upon your statement, what is sex?
And that's where I was leading to. What is sex? Especially to a woman, what is sex?
Right. So that's the thing. When you say everyone enjoys sex, that yes, you are generalizing, but it's a hard question to answer, because sex could mean something different to everybody. Is sex oral? Is sex penetration? Is sex intimacy where you're kissing and hugging? What is sex? Mm-hmm. And so one of the most important things that when I'm working with clients, that whenever there's a discrepancy or a mismatched sex drive, I always like to start off with and say, okay, well, what does intimacy mean to you? And what does sex mean to you? Mm-hmm. And many times when you have, generalizing, the woman with the lower drive and the man with the higher drive, and they say all he wants is sex. But then when you talk to the man and you say, what is sex to them? And they say, that's the way I can connect and show my wife I love her. And when the wife hears that, instead of them seeing sex as just being this penetrative act, they can say, you know what? Maybe the change of mindset would be to actually see sex as a way to connect like my partner does, because it should be fun.
And we've had shows about intimacy and what is intimacy and what men think about intimacy. And a lot of times from what I've heard, it's more the action of having sex than it is the cuddling or the conversation or anything like that. It's just they do want to penetrate.
Right.
Did you find the same?
Many times, yes. So when you say intimacy, men automatically say, yeah, intimacy, we're going to have sex, you know. Mm-hmm. But also men in general biologically tend to need more of that physical rather than the emotional. Mm-hmm. And that's just generalizing once again.
Right.
But I think that because men are a little bit more visual and a little bit more what we call spontaneous compared to women who may be more responsive, mm-hmm. what that means is men could look at their partners when they're naked or cuddle and get this erection or think about sex or see somebody making out and get horny right away. They're spontaneous mm-hmm. majority of the time, especially in long-term relationships. And then women, a lot of times in long-term relationships, that sometimes wanes and we get a little bit more of that love hormone, the oxytocin, which makes us feel like, oh, we just want to hug and kiss and we're very satisfied with that. Mm-hmm. So because we are responsive more so in long-term relationships, men have to understand that sometimes the women may not have that innate animalistic desire that a lot of them want. So they have to find ways to help them respond to intimacy and sex.
Okay.
So women just tend to be a little bit more responsive and take a little bit more time to, get into the mood.
Because what I've heard, as growing up is women are more emotional and they put their heart into it when they're having sex. Whereas men, and this is generalizing, we can have sex with a woman and she doesn't mean anything to us. It's right. just the action and the point that we get to penetrate. That's it.
I think that also it's a societal thing, because I know in my personal case, if I wanted to have sex because it was fun, I did it because it was fun. I didn't mm-hmm. have to love you. I didn't have to care. But I think a lot of times, growing up in society, women are taught to wait till the third date. Don't give yourself up. rather than saying, if you want to pleasure and you want to penetrate, go for it. Why do you have to say no? You know, ask for what you want. And I think that the whole idea of the penetration, I think that's one of the reasons why I was having a hard time when I first had all these problems with pain, because that's kind of, when I was younger, that's what I knew. It's like, that's what sex is. You penetrate. And I wasn't able to do that for quite a few years. So we had to learn other ways to be able to enjoy each other. We had to learn about real exciting foreplay and a lot of different types of toys and games and positions. And so we have to remember that in a relationship, even not in a relationship, it's not all about that penetration. And I think that we, as men, generalizing, men worry so much about satisfying their partner that we get a lot of issues with erectile dysfunction, performance anxiety, premature or early ejaculation because of that whole performance idea. So if we can get past the idea of having to focus so much on, I got to get the erection, I have to penetrate, I have to perform, I have to give my partner an orgasm. If we could focus on connection and we can focus on pleasure and enjoyment, then maybe we would not have so much focus on the penetration and have all these sexual issues.
I'm not disagreeing with you because I think you're right. If we do need to change our mindset. Oh, that's me. And we should do better at changing our mindset about sex. But society, movies, the media, our friends and everybody puts that in our head already. This is what a man's supposed to do, and you're supposed to satisfy the woman, and you're supposed to know exactly what to do. And that's, I know for some men that scares them because they really don't.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is I try to tell everybody, just because one person worked one way, I can guarantee the next person you connect with is going to be completely different. So the whole fun part of it is just learning your partner. And another thing that's very important for men to understand is it's not really your responsibility to give your partner an orgasm. It's you who helps your partner achieve the orgasm, because there's so much pressure on a man to make sure that their partner has that orgasm. But a lot of them don't realize that with sex, only 20, maybe 25% of women actually have an orgasm through sex.
Yeah.
And there's many times where men will come to me and they'll say, no, every other relationship I've had, they've had orgasms all the time. And, now this one, my wife is not. And I say, that's because majority of them probably faked it. And they've probably been sitting in my office telling me they did, because they don't want to make their partner feel bad. So that performance is just, it takes away the whole idea of what sex should be.
Okay. So now you mentioned foreplay, and how important is foreplay to a woman to get her either in the mood or maybe in the mood a day or two later or whatever? But how important is foreplay to women?
Well, you're having a Thanksgiving turkey. Are you just going to serve it? Or are you going to put it in the oven first? And if you put it in the oven, if you don't warm up the oven a little bit ahead of time, that turkey is going to take a lot longer. So it's the same type of thing. You have to warm it up for it to be ready to cook.
And that's why I say,
Yeah.
a day or two later, because I was kind of alluding to, you just don't, okay, honey, how you doing, baby? I love you, or kissy, kissy, kissy. Let's go have sex. And you have to do it on a continuous basis. And that's part of the intimacy, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there's flirting, there's bringing flowers or whatever you think your partner might want, depending on their, there's a lot of different love languages. There's telling your partner they're beautiful or sexy, or just, being playful, being a little touchy. I think that biologically, we need more time just because it takes a little time for the blood flow to get there, the fluids to lubrication to build up. And just because also, this is also a misconception, is people think that if a woman's not lubricated, they're not turned on. And a lot of times it could be medication, it could be their age. Lubrication could be very, very helpful. So don't think that just because your partner's not, lubed up. But the vagina itself takes time to stretch. It's like a rubber band. Or a balloon. If you go ahead and you just blow on the balloon, you know how people actually stretch the balloon first? You stretch the balloon and then you blow on it, and it's easier for it to fill up. Same thing with a woman. If you try to go ahead and just go stick it in and have sex, their vagina is only 2-3 inches. But as the lubrication comes and as the blood flow comes, it's like a rubber band. It's like a balloon. It stretches to be able to take someone who's 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever inches, 5 inches, whatever it is, to be able to not have pain or not have discomfort. So all of that put together with the foreplay helps the partner want you more. And that's what a lot of men desire, is they want their partner to desire them.
True. Now, you mentioned size, so let's just dive into it. Does size matter to a woman?
Majority of the time, no. But then again, there are some women who, same thing as men. Men want big boobs, or they want little boobs. They want a big butt. They like little butts. People do have preferences. But for the actual performance-wise, is it needed to have a really big one? No. Sometimes there's women that have a smaller pelvis and a bigger one is uncomfortable, so they want something smaller. I think it just depends on the person, on the person's pelvis, what they're used to, and what they need. Sometimes it's not the size, it's the shape that helps them feel good.
And with that, let me ask you, is all vaginas the same shape and size?
Most vaginas, they're definitely not the same shape. Size-wise, you're going to have an average of 2 to 3 inches every vagina until it expands. Some people have a little bit of a deeper one. Some people have a little bit of a less one. So sometimes if you're very long, even if you're not girthy, the length can be uncomfortable. And sometimes you have to take your time slowly, foreplay, to help it stretch. Excuse me. I think that also, depending on the position of the woman's clitoris, can make a big difference on her pleasure as well. So if you have someone that's completely straight, it may not hit the clitoris the right way. If you have someone curved up, maybe it helps hit the G-spot. If you have somebody that kind of, instead of the penis going up a little bit, it goes down a little bit, and someone has a cervix that goes up, it might be a little uncomfortable if he's too big. So the anatomy could be different, because some women's cervix dips down. Some women's cervix dips up or goes up, depending on their position of their uterus. And so there's a lot of mix matching.
Yeah, and that would make a difference in between if she's uncomfortable and she doesn't want to have sex, and she might not even want to tell you that.
And certain positions may be uncomfortable. That's why some people say, I can't really do it doggy style, but I can do it missionary. Or I can only do it doggy style because missionary goes too deep. Or I can't have my legs up because of that purpose. So when men have... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when men have insecurities about their size or their girth or their length, it could vary from person to person. You might find one woman who'd be like, I only want someone who's 9 inches or bigger. Then you can have someone that's going to be like, just give me 3 or 4, I'm happy. It just doesn't, the insecurity can cause a lot of erectile dysfunctions as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw us men under the bus for a second. I know a lot of times we are more insecure about our ability to please a woman than we would like to let on. So I know that insecurity can definitely play a part. Absolutely.
And the thing is that you have to remember, we don't get taught how to have sex in school. We are taught, don't get someone pregnant, don't get a disease. Here's a penis, here's a vagina. You know? So who teaches you how to have sex other than you learning through, progression or coming to me? I
Yeah,
do a lot
and
of, sex 101.
like we
But
was talking about with friends and the other fellas, telling you this, and that's a hard one too, because a lot of times men, we're not going to sit down and, well, let's have a discussion about sex. What do you think? That's not something that's going to normally happen.
yeah, a lot of times they are a little shy to have to ask questions that may make them seem less than or emasculate them but I think one of the most important things is that whenever you are in a relationship, don't try to assume you know it all, because I can guarantee the person that you're with that might be a newer person if you're, dating,
Hmm.
things change. And even in long-term relationships, I know what I liked 10 years ago that used to get me off or get me excited is
Hmm.
not the same things that I like now. Sexuality is fluid, it
Now,
changes.
is that because it's boring now or is uncomfortable now?
No, it's just that it's almost like, oh, I have chicken every single day. And every single
Yeah.
time I just add a little bit to the chicken, it's still good, but you want a piece of steak every once in a while. And I don't mean a different person, I mean something different
Hmm.
in your own bedroom. Listen, you could want another person. There's all different types of lifestyles. But I
Yep.
think that, being in a long-term relationship, it can get boring if you're doing the same things over and over again. So you do have to change it up, and your body gets conditioned. Things that used to feel good or that used to give you an orgasm, you're so used to that same sensation, you
Hmm.
have to change it up. So if you're used to having sex oral in a 69 position, try switching it up and try to do oral in a missionary position or with in between the legs a different way, or
Hmm.
try a different position. So I think that that is important to remember, is that just because things worked at the beginning doesn't mean that it's going to keep working through your entire relationship.
And you do have to change it up, spice it up. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some different ways a man can spice up his relationship? And I know you just touched on a few of them just now, but are there any other ways that a man can spice up his relationship or his sex life with his spouse?
I think, first of all, a lot of it is communication, because a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know what my partner likes, or I don't know what she wants. Well, you'd be surprised sometimes if you ask.
Hmm.
They have all these different types of little quizzes online that you can find where the partner fills out some of the questions and the other one fills out, and then you can kind of connect and see which ones were a match.
Hmm.
So you're like, oh, you do like bondage? Oh, and they also have apps on the phone where I think it's called Card Decks by Gottman. He's
Really?
a famous, very well known therapist, a marriage therapist, and he's got an app called Card Decks, and it asks questions. So sometimes when it has mild, medium, and spicy. So you can ask questions of your partner and learn different things that they like. You can try playing games. There's a lot of fun games to play in the bedroom. You can
Hmm.
bring in a little bit of food, a little bit of chocolate syrup. You can play in the shower. The shower is a great place to play and, soap each other up,
Hmm.
wash each other's hair. Um,
Yeah, my
Different
wife
place in the
does mine all the
house.
time.
Okay, so maybe she could shave some of the little stubbles there. um, but it's just using your imagination. Go have sex in the car like you did when you were 16. And just have fun. If you just think about it as fun, you can be creative.
And if a man has been, say, in a previous relationship, and the man was demoralized and with sex, and with his partner, she was like, "Oh, you're no good. Oh, you're too small. Oh, you rarely you hear you're too big." But just been demoralized. How can he get over that and bring back that desire and that wanting to have sex and being more comfortable in having sex?
It's not easy. And I actually have a couple of clients right now that are very insecure about their penis size because they've been told once before 20 years ago that they were small. You know, some women don't realize that it could be very emasculating and very troublesome for men. But I think that if men could really understand that it's truly, when we say it's not about the size, it's about how you make your partner feel, and not worry so much about making sure, because like I said, every woman is different. So just because you might feel that you're a little smaller, you might have someone that it doesn't matter because they don't want someone bigger, or maybe their cervix is down and it's easier for somebody smaller to do that. You can't judge your penis size on every single encounter. And it's really, men are more visual, women are more emotional and in their head. And so if you can just remember that women are not going to look and really care as much, they're going to, want to be able to have that connection here.
Yeah.
More so. And then it doesn't matter what's between your legs.
Now, you see these ads and these stuff out there that they can make your penis grow. Is that any truth to that?
I mean, they have things like pumps that before you have sex, if you're using a pump, it could help with a little bit of girth and a tiny bit of length, not much, but it can help, but it's not long term. It's just, for those couple hours, whatever. But a lot of people don't like to have to worry about pumping, prior. But they also have the penis extenders, which are a little bit uncomfortable. There's really no proof that it does much. The penis extenders can potentially add maybe half an inch if you're using it religiously. But once again, if there was a lot of real solid proof to that, every single man would have a penis extender. So besides the penis pump and potentially the penis extender, you can use toys to help make things larger. They have penis sleeves that I sell that have that add girth to it and kind of have fun little sticky things sticking out that can make the woman feel good too. So a penis extender toy that can slide on a sleeve, that could be helpful too, to add some extra girth.
See, you're teaching an old man something.
Yeah, they have some that you could put on the tip, so it adds a little bit to the tip.
Excuse me.
So, but nothing really that is going to be long lasting.
Okay. So it's more of something that you can use for the moment in that time, and then it's going to go back to normal anyway.
Yeah, except for the extenders. But those are you're pulling on stuff. It just doesn't sound very nice.
No.
You're pulling on it. It's pulling on the ligaments, and it's supposed to expand the ligaments. But you just have to be careful with stuff like that. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's.
So you have to be. So you have to be careful about it, and
yeah,
I know some men will use the blue pill, just so they can last longer. And so I'm gonna sneeze again, but is the longevity of your sexual encounter really that important to a woman?
It depends. There are a lot of women that want to at least have a few minutes. But there's also a lot of men that have either early ejaculation or performance anxiety issues where they're not able to last more than a minute. And so sometimes that can be an issue for women. And sometimes if women are not in the mood or don't have as much desire, they have no problem with a minute or less. So I think it depends on your relationship and where it's at and what you want to get out of it. But I think that with the Viagras and all those pills and Cialis, Levitra, all those kind of pills, I think that it could help men with sometimes a little bit more confidence. But in a long-term relationship, majority of the time, women don't want to have intercourse for 20 minutes straight. it's a lot. It could be painful, it could be uncomfortable, it could be dry, you know. And so I think that
Yeah. Because even if you
taking it, it
start
just
off,
depends on you.
if
Yeah.
you start off wet, you can dry up in the process,
Hmm.
right?
Yep, yep. That's why it's always important just to be able to have some lube on the side. There's nothing wrong with lube. But like I said, it doesn't mean that you're not turned on. It's just you have a constant friction. It's going to dry you up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to stay turned on for 20 minutes straight doing the same thing in and out, in and out, in and out, you know? So, an average is 4 to 6 minutes anyway for a man to have sex and before they come.
Oh, okay. Now, is there a way to extend that time? Is there
Hmm.
something that a man can do to, if he's a premature ejaculation?
Absolutely. It's not something, it depends also on how long it's been going on, but it's not a quick fix. And men don't have patience when it comes to it. They want it fixed right now and right then and there.
Well, we
So
got
I
other
work with a
things to
lot.
do.
I work with a lot of men, and after like the second session, they're like, "It's still only a minute." I said, "This is going to take a couple of months, possibly. It's not something that works overnight." But I think depending on the reason for it, is it medication? Is it performance anxiety? Is it just the fact that that's how it's been so for years? So we have to
Hmm.
kind of see what the background is first in order to be able to help them. But I think meditation is very, very important
Hmm.
because what happens is that as soon as men start to have sex, the only thing that they're thinking of is, okay, last longer, don't come. Da-da. They're focusing so much on not coming that they come. Okay. So breathing, relaxing, and people say, "Oh, picture somebody, a nun riding a bike." That stuff doesn't work. You have to be able to just breathe and allow yourself to be in that moment and stop focusing on the performance of it. And that would be the first thing. There's also different types of toys, such as cock rings or C rings, where you
Hmm.
can put it on and keep it a little bit tight near the base. So that way it keeps blood flow in the penis.
Okay,
That could be helpful.
because I've heard of those, but I had a kind of an idea how it worked, but it kind
Hmm.
of once you put it on, it traps the blood into the
Right.
upper part of the penis. Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, because what happens is that you have the penis and then this is the base of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all hard and erect. And if you get performance anxiety, all the blood flow is going to leave and go to your chest and your heart. It's kind of like that fight or flight type of thing, which is why people lose their erections many times if they have performance anxiety.
Oh,
But if you can keep it tight around here while it's erect, then this will stay with the blood flow because this is going to be tight and it's going to keep the blood from coming backwards.
now will that? Is there a time limit that you can put that on, or does it? Your blood is still seep out after a while anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it will potentially, but it does keep it a little bit more erect. If you feel like, people might lose the erection before they try to have sex,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be really helpful. But also, I think one of the things that men struggle with is their masturbation technique because they usually have masturbated so quickly so the wife doesn't find out, the kids don't find out, their parents don't find them. So they have a habit of, let me just go rub one out, you know, and be done with it. And also they're doing it dry many times where you have to simulate the sexual feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I recommend for men, if they're having a problem with the early ejaculation, to try masturbation with lube.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of men will lay on their back and watch porn. Turn off the porn, try to pay attention to what your body is feeling. So you have to be able to know where your point of no return is and practice masturbating as if you would be having sex.
Mm-hmm.
Turn around, go on your hands and knees, try to simulate that same feeling, put yourself in that position and try to use the imagination a little bit more. And so that way you could see what's going on in your body rather than focusing on a video. because probably about 95% of the men that I speak to watch porn while they masturbate. And it's not
Yeah, I
simulated
bet.
the
Yeah.
same way with a woman or a man, whoever their partner is.
Yeah. Okay. And I always have a suggestion for men is to really sit down with their lady before they get married, and talk about some of these things, these issues that you have, because you hear a lot of times that, man, we used to have sex all the time, and once we got married, it was like, that's it. No, baby, I got a headache. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. Well, let me ask you this question. What is behind that? Is it the lack of intimacy, or just that, okay, I got him now and I'm good?
That's a loaded question. Excuse me. There's could be so many reasons for it. Kind of like I was saying at the beginning, the first year or two in any relationship, you're getting a lot of that lust, a lot of that, those adrenaline hormones, that feeling of desire.
Mm-hmm.
Once things get into a little bit more of a long-term relationship, the men still have that spontaneity, but the women biologically and physically lose some of that animalistic passion and desire if it's not helped being built by passion and responding to something that they have desire with. So another thing is that it always has to turn into sex. So if you can have intimate times where the woman doesn't always have to be performing, or doesn't have to be, I don't want to say forced to have an orgasm, but feeling like they have to have an orgasm, or they can't just snuggle and cuddle and kiss and make out, and the only time they get touched, the only time they get their needs met is when their partner wants to have sex, then it's frustrating for many women. Maybe they're not getting help around the house like they need. So it's really about learning what makes your partner feel loved, to do something that makes your partner feel loved every day, so you're nurturing their desires.
And that could be anything from taking the kids out and giving her an hour or two or
Space.
whatever to be by herself, take a bubble bath, and just unwind herself.
Right. See, so it just depends on where they're at. I mean, if they have young kids and the mom's a stay-at-home mom and you got kids hanging on you, feeding on your boobs, the last thing you want is someone else hanging on you and feeding on you. You know? So it really, that's why I say it's a loaded question, because there's so much dependent on what's going on. Have you heard of the 5 love languages?
No.
They have Gary Chapman wrote a book, and it's called The 5 Love Languages, and it's excellent. It's really, really good to be able to learn your partner's love language. And there's 5 basic love languages, and it's gifts, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and words of affirmation. So I always try to tell people in a relationship, I said, what would be your top 2? Mine would be physical touch and words of affirmation. If I have someone that just does acts of service and things like that, I may not feel that love and desire that I need, because they're not feeding what makes me feel loved.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find out what your partner's love language is, and you know that they need some physical touch, and you're not giving your, I'll just say husband, any physical touch during the day, then they're going to be deprived of what makes them feel loved, and they're going to be even more on you. And that's why so many times you have, they'll be touch deprived. You have a lot of men that are touch deprived because the women are not feeding their love language. But then what happens many times is the woman will go to touch them and give them kisses and hugs, and the man automatically assumes they want sex. And then the woman pulls away because they just want to give them love. So it's just like, catch 22, this little mount. So a lot of times what I tell people is to give your partner the intention behind the touches, help give them what they need. And when I say give the intention, it just means like, I just want to give you a hug. I want to just give you a kiss. I want to, so that way the expectation is like, every time I kiss him, he's going to want sex. So people stop kissing, So that love language is kind of really helpful.
Yeah, because I would think because of as people go out into the world and work, you go to work and you come home and want to touch or you want to talk or tell them about your day, and the other person is like, you know what, I'm finna go out and hang out with the girls, or I'm finna go out and hang out with the fellas, and I don't, want to talk, and that's gonna actually build a wedge between them, wouldn't you say?
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially if their love language is quality time. You're depleting their quality time. So you have a guy coming home, had a really rough day at work, and the woman's like, oh, good, you're here. Here, take the baby, I'm going. And the guy has, let's say, quality time as one of his things. He might want to be able to sit there and have that talk with you, and you just run away and go, and he's going to feel resentful. Same thing with her. She's going to be home with the kids all day, and she just wants someone to do acts of service. She wants someone to help with the dishes, with the groceries, with the dinner. And the guy comes home and he sits down, he watches TV and plays on his phone or on his games, and she's been in the house all day with the kids. He's not speaking her love language. He's just letting her do everything. So that love language is going to be very helpful to see what is important to your partner. So when you do come home, once a day at least, try to do something that is going to be important and make your partner feel loved.
Now,
and that really helps with the desire.
If you can't sit down and talk about it, can you write it and give it to your partner?
Oh, absolutely. I recommend people writing all the time, because sometimes arguments ensue because you don't let your partner finish their statement.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's important to be able to share what you're thinking without getting that, that feedback so quickly. So it's important to be able to just write some things down, leave little notes, and just say, I just want to share how I feel. When you're ready, let's talk, and I'll, be quiet so you can share how you feel. That's the thing, is that people are thinking about what they want to say and not necessarily listening to what the other person is saying.
They're worried about responding back.
Right. How am I going to answer this?
Yeah. Instead of just taking it in and listen to what he or she is saying.
Okay. Exactly. And the people want to connect with each other because they want to make it work, not because they don't.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, you really want it to connect. You want it to last. You want to have a great relationship with your spouse or your significant other.
Absolutely. That's why people want to communicate what's bothering them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just may not know how to communicate it the right way. And so people become defensive and things like that, and that can push people away intimately. But I think just learning the love language is going to be important so people can feel loved and keep that desire building on a daily basis.
Well, Dr. Stacey, that's almost our time, but I got a question for you that just popped into my head. What can you tell men to do, or advice that you can give them that will make their love life, and you've given a lot already today, but maybe one particular advice that you can give them that will really help them connect with their significant other?
I think it's patience and understanding and communication. A lot of men are very, I don't know if egocentric's the right word, but when it comes to sex, they feel that kind of defines who they are. And so if they have a partner that maybe doesn't have desire or, not necessarily in the mood, they take it very, very personally. Like, she doesn't think I'm good looking. She doesn't find me attractive. She doesn't desire me. I can't, all these things, when I have people sitting there saying, I love my husband. I think he's sexy. I think he's gorgeous. I find him very attractive, but I don't necessarily physically need that sex. And so if men can help express to a partner what sex means to them, or find ways to connect with their partner on other types of touch that is not so performance based, they're going to get a lot more out of their partner than just expecting sex 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be helpful, is just trying to understand what their partner's needs are so they could help fulfill that, which will help build desire for them in return.
Well, Dr. Stacy, how can the audience get in touch with you and get more knowledge on their sex life?
Well, I'm all over the internet in a good way. My website is drstacyfriedman.com, which you can see on the show there. So you could find me there. I have my email and my phone number there as well. I'm also on Instagram at Dr. Stacy Friedman and LinkedIn on Dr. Stacy Friedman. And on Facebook, I actually have a men's health, sexual health and empowerment group, and it's called Men's Sexual Health and Empowerment. Yep, that's what it is. And you can find me there. I just couldn't remember the exact name of it. But you can find me there, and I like to give a lot of advice. There's other men on the group. It's men only. I also have a women's one called Intimacy, Sex, and Empowerment. And you can find me there as well, just communicating back and forth with others. And I give a lot of free advice. Okay. I offer 15-minute consultations for free, too. So if you are not sure if it's right for you, you can call.
And before I forget, you have a book as well. Can you tell us about your book?
Yes, my book can also be found on my website, drstacyfriedman.com. There's a book link, but it's called Confessions and Lessons of a Sexpert. And it's just a basic guide to intimacy and better sex. And it really helps people connect on a different level and help them understanding the importance of taking away the performance and focusing on pleasure and focusing on toys and other fun things, and understanding how important it is to love yourself and feel good about yourself, and communication with your partner. So it's an easy read, but it's a fun book.
Oh, good. Well, I know I'm gonna have to stop because I have more questions. The more you talk, the more questions I have.
I can keep going. I'll have to invite you back.
So you got to do me a favor. You got to come back on the show again. Is
Absolutely.
that possible? Okay.
100%.
All right. But I definitely
not going to stop me talking about sex.
And I love learning more. And I heard a saying that you did a couple of years ago, and it was about the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open.
100%.
And as men and women, we have to live and work and develop with a open mind, because if you got a closed mind, you're really missing out on some things, and you're really not going to be able to progress and be the best version of yourself.
100%. I always tell people, just try to be curious. If you're not sure you're going to like it, don't automatically just be like, no, ew, gross. Just be curious about it. Say, what is it about that you like? Why do you like it? How does it work? How do you do it? Let's just try. If I'm not into it, then that's okay. But have that open mind and enjoy.
And that's the hard part, because I know what you may have experienced growing up, maybe your spiritual relationship, which is, it plays a part in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what your parents have said growing up, your grandparents, your friends, everybody plays a part.
What serves you now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, all that stuff are things that we work through. There's a lot of shame, guilt, embarrassment, religious background, cultural background. Mm-hmm. Who taught them? These are things from years and years and years and years and years ago. What's serving you now? What is this education that we know now? Because everything changes in life, and we just have to take that in and see if it's not serving you now, change it. Change your story.
Yeah.
Make it something new.
Well, great. Well, I can't wait to have you back on the show again so we can talk some more, because I really had a long list. Your list of questions that I have for you has been the longest I've ever had for anybody.
That's great.
So, and I just touched on a few of them, so I still have a lot more.
Save them for next time.
We're going to save them for the next show.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks, Dr. Stacy. Really, I do appreciate you coming on the show. No, it's been
and
definitely
thanks everyone for
pleasure.
Listening.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. And, I really want to thank Dr. Stacy Friedman for coming on the show and providing all that information because it was great information. And I thank you for listening. But don't forget, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go to The Father Show with Mike Thompson and click on our YouTube channel, hit that subscription button, and while you're there, hit that notification bell so that way, whenever we upload a show, you'll be notified. And if you are men that are out there and you're looking for resources, please go to thefathershowwithmikethompson.com, click on resources, and there you will find state and national resources there that can assist you or whatever you need. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for coming in and listening to the show today, and I thank you for joining us. Don't forget to tell somebody else, and until I see you next week, God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you next week.